Good morning. My name is Catherine Vidal, Technical Specialist of the Procurement Division for the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery, or CDBG-DR program, and Community Development Block Grant Mitigation, or CDBG-MIT program. In this pre-proposal meeting, we are going to discuss the request for proposal number CDBG-DR Meet RFP 2023-10 for services of Davis Bacon and Related Act SaaS system for compliance implementation. I would like to introduce the Puerto Rico Department of Housing personnel. Along with me is Gustavo Umpierre, Technical Specialist, Elisa Nieves, Technical Specialist, and Maria Angelica Rodriguez, Deputy Director of Federal Compliance Division. Any questions submitted in this meeting will be answered in writing and published in an addendum. Any information provided in this meeting does not change the terms and conditions established in the request for proposals instructions. The meeting will be recorded and available in our CDBG YouTube channel. All procurement processes shall be conducted in accordance with the terms and conditions established in the procurement manual for the CDBG-DR program to guarantee full and open competition and fair treatment of all persons or entities involved in each procurement process. The procurement manual is available in our CDBG-DR website, incorporated by reference and made an integral part of the RFP. Now, we have the presentation from the Federal Compliance Division for an explanation of the scope of work. With you, Maria Angelica Rodriguez.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Catherine. I will be displaying my presentation. All right. Welcome to the pre-submission conference presentation for the scope of work for RFP related to Davis Bacon and Related Act SaaS system for compliance implementation. The action plan for CDBG-DR, CDBG-MIT, and CDBG-DR Electrical are available on the PRDOH website, and they provide a listing of programs which will allow eligible activities for construction. Proponents should complete their due diligence to acquire knowledge of the programs within. The projects associated with labor compliance monitoring services will include, but are not limited to, multiple small and large infrastructure construction projects. The specific number of projects or contracts that may require these monitoring services is not known and will vary from year to year. The projects can range in size and complexity. For any information on the program structure, refer to the exhibits of NPRDOH program webpage for public information. The firms must be familiar with and have experience with the necessary and required forms for labor compliance reporting and monitoring for public capital improvement projects. This next graphic provides a brief overview of the current MIT mitigation programs within the latest action plan. These are also subject to future changes. Over here, you see a brief overview of the current DR programs related to electrical power. These are also subject to future changes. The Federal Compliance Unit has developed policy guides, training modules, forms, reports, procedures, tools, and enforcement mechanisms to drive Davis-Bacon and related acts compliance implementation for directly managed construction projects and subrecipient-led construction projects. You can press the following link and access our Davis-Bacon website map for more information. Proponents have access to all the public resources and can reference these to ensure their systems support implementation of the roles and responsibilities for the grantee, the subrecipient, or contractors. Labor standards under DBRA, also known as DEBRA, include the following regulations: the Davis-Bacon Act of 1931, the Copeland Anti-Kickback of 1934, the regulations under 29 CFR regarding the Department of Labor, Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, the Contract Work Hours and Safety Standards Act, also known as QASA, and the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974. PRDOH subrecipients and project owners are responsible for ensuring implementation of DEBRA with their contractors. Contractors awarded contracts funded with CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT funds are responsible for complying with DEBRA requirements. DEBRA will apply to what is a public building or public work found in 29 CFR Section 5.2. The term building or work generally includes construction activities of all types, as distinguished from manufacturing, furnishing of materials, or servicing and maintenance work. Some examples include buildings, structures, and improvements of all types, such as bridges, dams, solar panels, highways, streets, tunnels, power lines, etc. The Davis-Bacon Act requires the payment of prevailing wages, provides a fair opportunity to compete in building programs funded by the federal government, and prevents contractors from bidding below an area's prevailing wages. The Davis-Bacon Act generally applies to federally funded or assisted projects valued at more than $2,000 and to contracts for the following types of work on public buildings or public works. It includes construction, alteration, and/or repair, as well as painting and decorating. In regards to what we need from a system for compliance with the Davis-Bacon Act, we need a system to perform system verification of prevailing wage rates for the contract, to perform verification of applicable Puerto Rico executive orders to be applied, to perform system verification of overtime hours and correct payment of 1.5 times for hours over 40 within a work week, to track resolution of flag corrective actions, and to document processes to maintain accurate reports and records. A general overview of the QASA: it applies to contracts greater than $100,000, and it does not apply to programs with only a loan guarantee. This law requires contractors and subcontractors to pay laborers and mechanics, including watchmen and guards, employed in the performance of all covered contracts, 1.5 times their basic rate of pay for all hours worked over 40 in a work week. Regarding the QASA, we would need a system to identify when 40 hours has been surpassed, to identify when 1.5 times the pay rate has not been paid for over 40 hours, to produce system-generated computation that is reliable for subsequent enforcement or oversight action, to produce system-generated computation of liquidated damages, to track resolution of flag corrective actions, and to document processes to maintain accurate reports and records. The Copeland Anti-Kickback Act. This is a federal requirement that ensures that contractors or subcontractors will comply with permissible payroll deductions to employees working on covered contracts. It also covers the statement of compliance, which must be present in each payroll with identical wording found in the WH-347 form. The weekly payroll report must be submitted within 7 days after the regular pay date for the pay period. In regards to compliance with the Copeland Anti-Kickback Act, we need a system to identify federal authorized deductions, to identify local authorized deductions in Puerto Rico, to identify when unauthorized deductions happen, to be able to flag unauthorized deductions and provide summary dollar amount in question, to allow for computation of corrections to be available to subrecipients, PRDOH contractors, to track resolution of any corrective actions, and to document processes to maintain accurate reports and records. Regarding the Fair Labor Standards Act, this establishes a minimum wage, overtime pay, record-keeping, and youth development standards that affect employees in the private sector, in federal, state, and local governments. It covers non-exempt workers that are entitled to a minimum wage of not less than $7.25 per hour. Overtime pay rate at a rate not less than 1 1/2 times the regular rate of pay is required after 40 hours of work in a work week. And other compliance regulations that require DOL monitoring. There are various executive orders in Puerto Rico that impact the DEBRA prevailing wage rates since March 2017 until February 2022. Proponents must ensure that their systems are able to program these dates as validation and QA/QC checkpoints when contractors, subcontractors enter their contract begin dates to ensure contract will comply with the established project prevailing wage rates in Puerto Rico. The system should be able to store supporting documentation to validate construction start date. Section 3 workers. Hours worked by individuals identified as Section 3 workers and targeted Section 3 workers are a key component of federal labor standards tracking and reporting responsibilities. The system should be able to identify these workers and enable tracking and reporting of these hours within payroll submissions. Businesses, contractors or subcontractors who have been identified as MWBE should be able to be identified and overall activity tracked along with payroll submission. In regards to this type of compliance, we need a system to identify Section 3 workers on the project and have supporting documents on file, to be able to identify businesses who are certified as minority business enterprise or as women's business enterprise, to provide reporting to see rate of utilization from payroll submissions. Now we'll discuss briefly the scope of work. The DEBRA implementation overview is in phases. During the procurement phase, the system capability should include ability to upload copies of procurement process documents for direct and subrecipient run processes. During the pre-bid and pre-construction meeting phase, the system should be capable of including a checkpoint to identify if this was held and upload copies of meeting documents or for direct and subrecipient run processes. During the contract phase, the system should include a checkpoint to identify contract compliance with DEBRA. And additionally, copies of contracts and amendments must be able to be integrated or uploaded. During the on-site interviews phase, the system should include the ability to integrate submitted copies of HUD 11 form to project files and verification of completion of this function for each project. Regarding the certified payrolls, which is a core component of the system must be capable to accept payrolls from contractors, read the document, evaluate the document having pre-programmed functions, and provide a compliance outcome for the PRDOH team to review and take subsequent action on. Another core component of the SaaS system is the contractor notification. Systems should automate fail notifications after PRDOH evaluation, notifying subrecipients and/or contractors and program staff of the need for payroll corrections. This must include programming for follow-up after a time period and allow for history of corrective actions to be recorded. The system must be able to provide a project closeout letter as an automated function once a final review is performed for the project. The system must be able to use all data collected to create reports and be customized as requested by PRDOH. And the system must be able to provide PRDOH copies of all data as owners of the data in timeframes defined by PRDOH. Regarding Task 1, the SaaS platform technical specifications and performance requirements, you can see we have the system technical specifications, the system reporting capabilities, the system compliance capabilities and workflow, system user groups, system user capabilities, system testing requirements, user acceptance testing, risk management, and data migration. The items that form Task 1 play a critical role in defining an operating environment where the grantee subrecipients, and contractors can perform their roles and responsibilities. Based on the needs and responsibilities established in the RFP, the selected proposer will propose a comprehensive plan for design services for the system build-out in both English and Spanish, system testing, system user training sessions, live and pre-recorded system customer support in both English and Spanish, and training, technical assistance, and customer report materials such as presentations, manuals, etc. for PRDOH, subrecipients, developers, and contractors. The proposed project plan submitted with this proposal must include detailed tasks and dependencies. Very important, the SaaS must be available to users in both English and Spanish all year round with 99.9% or better uptime. System must be compatible with commercially available web browsers such as Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Safari, etc. on Mac, personal computers, and mobile platforms. The system should be able to be supported on industry standard cloud platforms such as AWS, Google, Oracle Cloud, and Azure. The proposer must list all compatible web browsers in the response. Task 2, the System Training and Customer Support Desk. The RFP includes the specifications for the Customer Service Desk, the Customer Service Desk Staff and Language Access, Training Plan, Technical Assistant, Customer Service Desk Hours, and Language Access. Regarding the Customer Service Desk, the role of this desk will be to gather all the customer support cases and communications on various emails, account, and channels. The customer support desk will be responsible for arranging them in one central place. The customer service agents must be bilingual, English and Spanish, and must have the ability to manage customer tickets promptly and efficiently. The proposer shall identify as part of the customer service desk plan the timelines for addressing, correcting, and fixing any potential system issues, and log the schedule of timeframes for responses to different inquiry categories. This report must be available for PRDOH to evaluate responsiveness to user groups. Their Task 2, Part B, Customer Service Desk Staff and Language Access. Proposer must have staff who are knowledgeable and bilingual for DEBRA compliance areas to assist RFP user groups seeking to register or perform day-to-day activities on the system as identified in Task 1. The proposer must submit as part of this response a customer service desk plan to indicate how they will support daily functions and efficient operation to ensure all tickets are resolved. The proposer must also provide a training plan as part of the submission to indicate the suite of training materials proposed in both English and Spanish, including but not limited to the live and pre-recorded online training environment, detailed system-specific manuals, PowerPoint presentations, live presentations, technical assistance, and webinars. All materials must be in English and Spanish. Task number 3, the service deliverables. In the proposal submission phase, the proposer must submit the following: an initial project plan that indicates the timeline for initial and final build-out, which includes all task items from this RFP being fulfilled as per tasks 1 and 2. The initial punch list indicating all technical specs from Task 1 will be fulfilled, met, or integrated in the system. An initial training plan as per Task 2. An initial training material roster indicating the suite of training materials to be provided as per Task 2. The initial customer service desk plan to indicate how the contractor will support daily functions and efficient operation to ensure tickets are resolved. The initial training plan to indicate the cadence and staff of the contractor to be dedicated as per Task 2, and the initial data migration and transition plan to move all relevant project data from existing hard copy data and information systems currently gathering project data and should be capable of interfacing with contractors' various payroll reporting software. Post-contract execution during the build-out and customization phase. We state that selected proposer must finalize and submit to PRDOH within the first 30 days after contract execution the following: a final project plan, a final punch list and checklist indicating all technical specs from Task 1 are fulfilled, a final training plan as per Task 2, a final training material roster, a final customer service desk plan to indicate how the contractor will support daily functions and efficient operation, a final training plan to indicate the cadence and staff, a final comprehensive data migration and transition plan to move all relevant project data from existing hard copy and information systems currently gathering project data, as well as a monthly report detailing actions taken during the period to ensure the proof of concept and build out to date. Under Task 3, during the operational phase, the selected proposer must submit an ongoing monthly report on the third Friday of each month that details an updated project plan, uptime percentages, and incident reports of any failures which impaired system operation, including downtime, issue code, and incident resolution. Summary and counts of trainings and technical assistance held by selected proposer to PRDOH and other groups, the number of customer service desk tickets attended, the number of new accounts and new projects set up in the system, the number of projects turned off in the system, the summary of data migration during that month, and any task order hourly rate charges for proposer personnel shall be invoiced as part of this report. Any charges, including travel and/or lodging, must be pre-approved in writing by PRDOH prior to incurring the cost. System delivery. Within 90 days of contract execution, the selected proposer shall deliver a fully functional compliance monitoring SaaS platform that meets the specifications of all tasks included in this RFP in both English and Spanish, for use by all user groups identified in this scope of work. Also, within 90 days of contract execution, the selected proposers shall deliver a fully functioning training plan, suite of training material, and tech desk support system available to all users in English and Spanish, incorporating any customization required by PRDOH. Task 4, the system warranty. The selected proposers shall warrant conformity with the specifications applicable at the time of supply of the software to assure the system requirements are met. The software will perform without defects during the term of this agreement. If the software does not perform as warranted, the selected proposer will use all reasonable efforts consistent with industry standards to cure the defect in accordance with the maintenance and support processes. The contract term will be for a 3-year term with an option extension for 2 additional 1-year terms, subject to the availability of funds and to the sole discretion of the PRDOH upon mutual written agreement. The PRDOH anticipates the possibility of additional system needs during the life of the contract. These shall consist of additional ad hoc programming needs, additional customization, or other support during the life of the contract. The selected proposers shall have on staff or acquire at its own expense staff that can respond to any system needs, task orders as needed. In the future, data may be collected from contractors and subcontractors that must be migrated into the new system. The proposer shall have on staff or shall acquire at its own expense staff needed to execute data migration tasks as needed. Lastly, proposers must be registered in the System for Award Management, SAM, at the time of proposal submission or initiate the registration process right after the proposal submission. For more information about the System of Award Management, go to sam.gov. In order to provide technological solutions, the providers must be registered with the Puerto Rico Innovation and Technology Service, also known as PRITS. To expedite the process, we encourage the proposers to register with PRITS. For more information about the PRITS, go to www.prits.pr.gov. As stated in the RFP, the work approach responses shall not exceed 30 pages. Responses that exceed the page limit will only be evaluated up to the contents of page 30. Content beyond this point will not be considered in the evaluation. The pages include workflows, graphics, charts, screenshots, or photos to support the proposed work approach. Proposers will be evaluated based on program understanding, efficiencies, and innovative ideas identified in the narrative, efficiency of the implementation schedule, and appropriate resources and resource hours necessary to deliver the program in the grant chart provided. This is all for the scope of work. Thank you for participating in this session. I pass the presentation over to the procurement team. Thank you.
Good morning, Good morning, everyone. And now we are going to discuss the important days of this RFP. the submission of questions and requests for clarification on or before December 14, 2023. Responses to questions and requests for clarifications, December 21, 2023. Proposals due date, electronic submission only, from January 29, 2024 at 9 a.m. up to on or before January 31, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. RFP documents acquisitions. The RFP documents are available for download at the CDBG-DR website, as presented on screen. Submission of inquiries and addenda. Responses to all proposal questions will be answered by addenda and will be posted on the CDBG-DR website. All documents related to this acquisition process, including the addendas issued by the Puerto Rico Department of Housing, are and will be available for download at the CDBG-DR website. All proposers are responsible to monitor the CDBG-DR website for any issued addenda in this RFP. The proposal electronic submission. Proposals will only be accepted electronically. Proposals submitted after the prescribed deadline will be not allowed. The Department of Housing will neither require nor accept physical proposal submissions. If a proposal is submitted on paper and electronically, only the electronic submission will be considered for evaluation. Proposals will receive access to submit proposals after completing the registration process through the CDBG-DR website. Once the scheduled submission period begins, a link will enable access to the registration form. Please complete all required fields in the form. Proposals must be submitted with the closing date and time schedule. Access to upload the proposals will begin 3 business days before the closing scheduled date and time. Now I am going to leave you with my coworker, Gustavo.
Good morning. The evaluation criteria. The evaluation criteria, the evaluation committee will evaluate responsive proposals according to the following criteria listed in order of importance. Critical: qualification and experience of the proposer to successfully perform the service required in this RFP, as evidenced by the successful implementation of relevant services of similar scope and complexity, preferably in large complex public organizations like state government and federal entities.
Thank you.
Quality of the proposed approach and its ability to meet or exceed the technical requirements and services described in this RFP, including implementation schedule and understanding of the user groups, functions, and needs within the SaaS system. Quality of oral presentation, approach, and system user experience of the proposed system and flow of functionalities. Important: capacity of the proposer to commit adequate time to effectively perform the services within the required time frame. Pass or fail: financial stability of the proposer and its capacity to effectively perform the services. System and help desk ability to perform in both English and Spanish languages. Price proposal: reasonable of overall price, allocation of effort, and overall value offered. And the preference: level, quality, and relevancy of participation by Section 3 business concern and MBE WBE registered Puerto Rico business. SAM registration: proposers and first-tier subcontractors must be registered in the SaaS in the System for Award Management, also known as SAM, At the time of the proposal submission or initiate the registration process right after the proposal submission. For more information, please visit the SAM website. There's no fee to create, renew, or update your registration. Awards will only be issued to entities that are cleared and not ineligible for award of a contract due to suspension, debarment, or HUD imposed limited denial of participation. Now we will leave you with Maria Angelica Rodriguez from the Federal Compliance Division to explain the federal compliance requirements.
Thank you. Hello again. I will be sharing. All right, so I will be presenting the federal compliance requirements for this RFP. I will be discussing an overview of compliance roles and responsibilities, accessing and using compliance tools that are available, documenting efforts, completing training and reporting, and some frequently asked questions. Specifically, we will be discussing Section 3 training, hiring, and contracting opportunities, minority and women-owned business participation, and fair housing and equal opportunity. Contractors or subrecipients using CDBG-DR or MIP funding have certain roles and responsibilities. These include assigning staff that will attend the day-to-day implementation of federal compliance, attending trainings and workshops, using tools and templates provided by PRDOH, executing activities and completing documentation required, participating in PRDOH-sponsored technical assistance, completing quarterly reporting, and complying with general reporting. The procurement package contains language that offers contractors the ability to seek a preference. Please remember to use the references and templates that are made available and that we will be discussing during this presentation. Proposers seeking preference should provide their self-certifications and sufficient evidence for how they qualified as a Section 3 business. The Department of Housing offers a template on the website. Proposers seeking MWE preference should provide a copy of their certification and evidence of their status. The certificates provided should show the dates and indicate that they are currently active. The procurement package contains sections that speak to the applicability and the requirements for MWE. Within those sections, you will find helpful links to online resources that are made available, such as the policy guide. We encourage you to look up those. Let's talk about Section 3. Section 3 is a federal requirement from the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968, and this requirement states that we should provide, to the greatest extent feasible, job training, employment, contracting, and other economic opportunities generated by this HUD financial assistance to be directed to low and very low income persons and businesses. PRDOH has its policy publicly available on the website in English and Spanish. Contractors must be familiar with and implement activities as applicable to achieve compliance. Contractors on a Section 3 covered project must work to meet Section 3 benchmarks. This benchmark would include that 5% of the total labor hours should be hours of targeted Section 3 workers, and 25% of the total labor hours should be work hours of Section 3 workers. There are also Section 3 businesses. This refers to a business concern meeting at least one of the following criteria, which is documented within the last 6 months. The business is at least 51% owned and controlled by low or very low income persons. It could also be a business that has at least 51% ownership and controlled by public housing residents or residents who currently live in Section 3 assisted housing, And it could also be a business that has over 75% of the labor hours performed for that business over the period of 3 months by Section 3 workers. Section 3 worker is any worker who currently fits or when hired within the last 5 years fit at least one of the following categories. The worker's income for the previous or annualized calendar year is below the income limit established by HUD. The worker is employed by a Section 3 business concern, or the worker is a youth build participant. A Section 3 targeted worker for housing and community development financial assistance projects is someone who is employed by a Section 3 business concern or currently fits one of the following categories: living within the service area of the neighborhood or project as defined by 24 CFR Section 75, or is a youth build participant. The neighborhood or service area contains at least 5,000 persons within a 1 mile radius from the project. If there are less than 5,000 persons within a 1 mile radius, you can expand the radius until you have 5,000 persons around the Section 3 covered project site. You can see here the income limits for the year 2023. These are established by HUD each year. They typically come out around April or May. You can see that 2023 for an individual person, the threshold would be $33,600 a year. Section 3 forms. We have a Section 3 plan that is to be filled out by the contractor or subrecipient. This document allows contractors or recipients to identify how they plan on being in compliance with Section 3 hiring and training and contracting goals. We have the self-certification forms to help individuals and businesses identify that they meet the requirements to be considered Section 3, and the documentation of efforts form, which is a template that allows contractors or recipients, that allows contractors or recipients to identify how they are performing efforts to be in compliance with Section 3. The Section 3 plan identifies new hiring needs, subcontracting needs. It also helps you as a contractor to plan your outreach efforts and assist your coordinators in identifying the day-to-day activities. It helps you define compliance procedures, and it helps you understand your reporting requirements. You can use the link on the slide to visit the website and download the Section 3 plan template. On our website, you can also find self-certification forms. These are useful tools that help you uncover if workers or subcontracting businesses meet the income thresholds required. HUD also used to offer a Section 3 register that is now deactivated pending coming back up sometime. Minority and women-owned business compliance. You can see, you can see in our website, our policies, where these regulations establish the participation of MWBE firms and ensure that, when possible, contracts and other economic opportunities founded in whole or in part with federal housing and community development assistance are directed to minority business enterprises and women business enterprises. You can find this in our webpage in Spanish and English. In summary, a minority business enterprise is defined as a business that is at least 51% owned, operated, and controlled on a daily basis by one or more American citizens of the following ethnic minority and or gender and or military veteran classifications: African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, Native American, Hasidic Jew, person with disabilities, and other individuals who can prove social and economic disadvantage. A women business enterprise is one that is at least 51% owned and controlled by one or more women. The owners must be U.S. citizens or legal resident aliens whose business formation and principal place of business are here in the U.S. or its territories, and whose management and daily operation is controlled by women. The RDOH has established in its policy guide goals that apply to professional services, purchasing supplies, and construction contracting. There is a total of 20% minimum participation goal. This 20% is comprised of 10% for women-owned business and 10% for minority-owned businesses. Contractors are expected to perform good faith efforts for contracting, subcontracting, and purchasing opportunities of $10,000 or more during the life of the contracts. We have MWBE forms in our webpage. We have the utilization plan, which is a template that allows contractors or subrecipients to complete compliance planning for MWBE contracting goals. And we also have the waiver form, which helps contractors identify if they meet the requirements to waive their goal for participation for MWBE and put forward their request with PRDOH. In general, the utilization plan is a tool that helps you compile data for your subcontracting. It helps identify what needs you may have. It helps hold discussions on creating supplier and contractor listings and provides awareness of meeting the goal for the contract and tracking. You can use the link on the slide to go to the website and download the plan template. The utilization plan can be used through the life of your contract with PRDOH. Completing it is easy. Read the general instructions in row 3, and you will complete section A, B, and F from the document. Complete the information requested in all the yellow cells. When we talk about certified minority or women-owned businesses, we are referring to those who have filed applications with federal entities such as SBIA and others that you see here on the slide. Businesses who are certified can provide proof of completing an application process to be officially recognized as a certified minority or business-owned enterprise. If you're registered as an MWBE, you should provide your valid certificate or other in response to this RFP. In this section, we will be discussing how to complete your efforts and quarterly reporting. In order for you to report your efforts, the Department of Housing provides a tool. This tool helps you document and identify how often you are seeking interactions with Section 3 business and MWBE businesses. The quarterly reporting form allows you to share and report your data with the Department of Housing. This allows the agency to fulfill oversight responsibilities and monitor the progress throughout the year. Department of Housing quarterly reporting form allows the user to capture multiple compliance areas all in one Excel form. Section 3 data is collected, MWBE data is collected, FHEO information is also collected within the report, and finally, those who have construction projects, there is a report for Davis-Bacon that is being modified. PRDOH will require quarterly reporting for all contractors. For the periods of January to March, it's filed on April 5th. For the period of April to June, it's filed on July 5. From July to September, the due date is October 5, and from the period of October to December, it's filed on January 5. Finally, let's briefly discuss FHEO. Contractors are responsible for ensuring compliance with federal civil rights and fair housing through their contractors, subcontractors, and so forth, ensuring that all necessary efforts will be made. The Fair Housing Act and Section 109 and 504 prohibit discrimination against the following protected classes of people: race, color, national origin, religion, sex, age, familial status, disability, gender identity, and sexual orientation. The Fair Housing Act is part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. There are many executive orders, laws, and statutes that govern the non-discrimination of protected classes to ensure equal opportunity for individuals in accessing federal funded programs. Equal opportunity is afforded to protected classes through a number of these federal laws and executive orders. The Department of Housing has published policy documents attending FHEO, as well as a language access plan. These policies must be implemented by contractors and subrecipients. They are publicly available online in both English and Spanish, and you're encouraged to click on the links and access the resources available. As a recipient of HUD financial assistance, the Department of Housing must ensure that all programs affirmatively further access to fair housing and that the programs provide equal opportunity for participation and employment. Reasonable accommodations are changes made to policies, practices, services, and structures or modifications to afford equal opportunity to individuals with disabilities. The costs associated with providing reasonable accommodations and modifications are to be incurred by programs receiving federal funding. HUD contemplates this additional cost as necessary to ensure that the programs and activities it funds do not discriminate against people with disabilities. Limited English proficiency refers to a person's limited ability to read, write, speak, and understand English. Due to Puerto Rico's high Spanish-speaking population, all entities and contractors using CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT funding must seek to ensure both that a person's limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English or Spanish will not place them at a disadvantage in the participation of programs. Finally, we have some frequently asked questions. Can a business be both Section 3 and MWE? The answer is yes. A business or a contractor can be both because these compliance areas are actually separate. Section 3 identifies the level of income to determine the status, and MWE uses race and gender information to qualify a business. Another question, if I am not planning on subcontracting, do I still need to complete documents? The answer is yes. You should still submit your MWE utilization plan, the documentation of efforts template, and your quarterly reports. If Section 3 doesn't apply to my contract, do I still have to complete the quarterly report? Yes, you will have to complete the MWE report and the FHEO report areas. If I am either a MBE or WBE, do I fulfill the total goals? You may have safe harbor for one of the goals for MWBE participation of 10%, but you will still have an additional 10% goal to show good faith effort for any subcontracting or purchasing you perform with the CDBG-DR and MIT funding. Lastly, what happens if I don't fulfill the goals before the end of my contract? All awarded contractors should perform and document efforts. PRDOH has developed templates discussed in this presentation to help you complete this exercise. You can submit a waiver before the end of the contract for approval. This waiver request should be submitted with the efforts and justification as appropriate. I am done with the presentation of the federal requirements. Please remember to direct all questions through the established protocols for this procurement. I pass the presentation over to procurement. Thank you so much.
Thank you to the Federal Compliance Division for all this important information. This will be all for our proposal for this process, the CDBG-DR Meet RFP 2023-10. Please remember any questions or clarifications must be sent with attachment 3 to our email. We thank you for your assistance and hope you have a great day.